So, as a guitar playing teenager growing up in the 1980s, obsessed with playing rock and pop music, I never liked Jimi Hendrix. And my childhood best friend was a complete Jimi Hendrix fanatic, all the way down to he used to wear a suede leather coat, with fringes, just the way Hendrix used to wear, and he'd wear tie-dye shirts. He was totally into it, and he used to spend hours and hours playing me Jimi Hendrix and trying to get me to appreciate him, and I just didn't. I didn't even really think Jimi Hendrix was a great guitarist, just like I never really thought Jimmy Page was a great guitarist, even though I loved Led Zeppelin. Now, you may think, for some guitar player to say that may just sound completely crazy, but you have to remember this was the 1980s, and for teenage guitarists, the 1980s was a really, really grim time. And that's because there was this tremendous peer pressure toward what I would call gratuitous displays of generic technical virtuosity. Meaning, how fast can you play scales and arpeggios through a distortion pedal? Or how smoothly can you do modal shredding, right? That kind of thing. And guitar soloing kind of changed forever in the 1980s, going forward. And if you think about, fusion players now, I don't know, just look at the contemporary world, Guthrie Govan or Matteo Mancuso, whoever you want to throw out, all the way down to like the millions of YouTube guitarists, shredding in their bedroom 10 hours a day. Like, you take this whole spectrum, it's like they all kind of sound the same. And I think that this partly issues from this peer pressure that was present in the 1980s. Guitar soloing just got really boring in the 1980s. Prior to the 1980s, guitar soloing and just guitar playing in general, it was way more interesting. And if you think about guitarists back then, the spectrum of styles and approaches to soloing, it's really amazing. Jimmy Page is a great example. Alex Lifeson of Rush, with his composed solos that were so interesting and different sounding. And to a lesser extent, David Gilmour might fall into a similar category. And then you have a guitarist who shredding metalhead from the 1980s would ever consider a good guitarist, Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac. I think Lindsey Buckingham is a fantastic guitarist. Does he shred? Does he do modal noodling? No, he doesn't. But at least he sounds different. At least he sounds original. I think his soloing is actually really, really impressive. So, eventually, I came to understand how great Jimmy Page was as a guitarist. I grew as both a listener and as a musician. But I have to say, Jimi Hendrix continued to elude me. Now, part of the reason that he continued to elude me, I guess there's a couple of main reasons. Okay, so the first reason is that I will confess, I really do not like the blues, and I know it's just sacrilege to say that as a guitarist. I don't care. I don't like it. I appreciate the blues. I appreciate everything that grew out of the blues. I just can't listen to the straight blues. It just bores me to tears. The song structure bores me to tears. I just don't enjoy it. And Hendrix, especially in his early, with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, he was very much a blues guitarist. Of course he had a psychedelic side too, but if you think about it, a lot of those numbers were pretty much straight blues, like Hey Joe, or even something like Voodoo Child, Slight Return, right? One of his most famous like guitar moments and all. Yeah, it's still the blues, you know. It's still just kind of boring to me. The other reason that I never bonded with him is it has to do with the Jimi Hendrix experience, right? He had these two English white dudes playing with him, Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, and I never really liked their playing. I never really thought the trio sounded that good. I never thought they sounded that cohesive, and I didn't really think that what those two guys were really doing Jimi Hendrix any favors, like in terms of like putting forward a sound. Like I just didn't think that the trio sounded all that good. Now, late in his tragically short life, Jimi Hendrix disbanded the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and he set up a new trio called Band of Gypsies. And Band of Gypsies, he had suddenly a very different sound, and it was much more of a black R&B type sound. And there was one album that came out before he passed away, the famous live Band of Gypsies album, and that album was kind of a compilation of a series of concerts he did at the Fillmore East. They sort of took the best pieces of the concerts and they put out an album. And of course, my childhood best friend had played me this album. Interestingly, this wasn't his favorite album. It was kind of sort of his least favorite. He only played it to me once, which I think is interesting because the album sounds completely different than the Jimi Hendrix Experience, or at least it sounds very different. And I remember listening to the Band of Gypsies album and I was like, you know, it's kind of the same story. But decades later, in 2016, a new album was released, which was the lost first performance at the Fillmore East, like the first night in its entirety. And this is the album Machine Gun, which is coming with me to the desert island. And when I listened to Machine Gun, I finally got Jimi Hendrix, and I finally liked Jimi Hendrix. This album is so remarkable. The first thing that I love about this album and so caught my imagination is that it's really clear why this album was never released. Because when you listen to it, it's obvious that these guys are just kind of diving in cold, like they are clearly like not really prepared. Like Jimi Hendrix is just flubbing lyrics all over the place. They're like screwing up arrangements. They're getting like verses out of order. The playing is all over the place. It's really interesting, and you might think, God, that sounds terrible. But the thing is that when you listen to it, these performances, they have a rawness, they have an energy and a power that I just don't hear anywhere else in Hendrix's whole recorded set of material. Like, there's something about the moment that this concert captured. And I think what the moment is that I think that this was the moment that Jimi Hendrix found his sound. It's almost like you're hearing these songs like at the moment of their conception, at the moment of creation. That's how thrilling they are. And he was in the process, right in that moment, of moving past the Jimi Hendrix Experience, right? The weird psychedelic white dude thing, and he was like going into very interesting new territory. And he had players that really gelled with what he was doing, and the rhythm section for the Band of Gypsies, I think just unleashed Hendrix as a player. Like when I compare his playing, particularly with this album, to the earlier stuff. I mean, to me personally, there's just no comparison. I mean, he is just moving into just incredibly thrilling territory. And I should say there's another thing that I absolutely love about this album, is that it contains the only blues song that I actually like, that I legitimately like and think is fantastic. It's the only one, just this one, and just this one performance of it. Because on the album, Hendrix, again, like they're just all over the place. They're so disorganized. So he doesn't even introduce the song with the right name, right? The song is the now pretty famous Hendrix song, Hear My Train A-Comin', which is on the old Band of Gypsys album too, a different performance. But in this concert, he announces it as Lonesome Train. Like, I don't even know if he had made up the name yet or whatever, or he's just taking the piss. I don't know what he was doing, but this one performance of this song, it's to me, it's like the pinnacle of Jimi Hendrix. It's the pinnacle of his brilliance. First of all, I've never heard his rhythm playing and his singing like so individually good and so kind of mutually reinforcing. So well played off of each other. I've never seen his singing and his playing mesh so beautifully or so thrillingly as they do. I also love this song because even though it is definitely the blues, right? There's a deep spirit of the blues about it, but it doesn't have like the stultifying blues arrangement that they all have to do. He does something very, very interesting with the arrangement. Like, it's really, it's really very clever. He makes the arrangement quite interesting without losing the character of the blues. You just have to hear it to see what I mean. And lastly, the guitar soloing in it. There's two solos, and they are, especially the second one, both of them, but especially the second one, they are just the most spontaneously thrilling guitar solos that I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I can't think of anything really comparable. In the second solo, there's a moment which I think is the greatest single moment in any guitar solo ever. I won't tell you what it is. You should just go listen. But I mean, like, it's like your heart stops when you hear it. It's incredible. It's like you just it takes your breath away. It's so amazing. And comparing Machine Gun with the old Band of Gypsys album, I again, once I fell in love with the Machine Gun album, I went back and listened to Band of Gypsys, and yeah, there's some good stuff. Like, if you take his really famous song Machine Gun, right? On the Band of Gypsys album, he does a solo for the song Machine Gun that is considered one of his greatest solos. And it is really good. It's a really good solo. It's very exciting. But to me, the version of Machine Gun on the Machine Gun album is just better. It's sort of more chaotic. He's sort of flubbing the lyrics. It's just everything is like a little bit less polished. And somehow, given what he's singing about, right, which is the horrors of the Vietnam War, like, I just feel like personally that sort of impromptu chaos and kind of like just slogging through it, with just a lot of heart and soul and all, it just suits the material better somehow. And, there are other songs that, that never made it onto the Band of Gypsys album. In particular, like Easy Rider is just an incredible song off of Machine Gun. Oh my God, I love that song. And the way he announces it on the album, he announces it almost like they were just making up verses right before the damn performance. It's like, he, again, it's hard to tell, he was quite the showman, but I think Easy Rider is also one of my all-time favorite Jimi Hendrix songs off of that album. So, this album, it made me realize like what a genius Hendrix was, and it also just made me mourn his early passing so much, late in life. For someone that never really liked him, I was like, wow, it was obvious that he was heading off into really incredible territory. And if you go and listen to some of the posthumously released stuff, studio recordings that he did, you can hear that he's really evolving. And it makes sense, right? Because like he hadn't been around that long before he passed away. 3 albums. That's nothing. Think about how long it took Pink Floyd to like get their shit together and find their sound, right? Like, think about how many weird albums Elton John had to release before he like really got his sound together. It takes a while. Very few bands like just come out, fully formed. It's rare. And as great as some of those early moments were in the Jimi Hendrix discography, I think that like this album captures his emergence. It captures the emergence of raw artistic, of his artistic being as it evolved into its next state. You get to actually kind of experience it for yourself listening to the album. And it just makes the album endlessly fascinating. You can just listen to it forever, and it's somehow as fresh and spontaneous and amazing as it was the first time you heard it. So definitely Machine Gun, the first Fillmore East show, will be accompanying me to the desert island without question.